What is the best furniture polish to use? Great question, and we're going to talk about that today. Hi there, I'm Angela Brown, and this is Ask a House Cleaner. This is a show where you get to ask a house cleaning question, and I get to help you find an answer. Now, I get asked the question 3 or 4 times a day, what's the best furniture polish to use? And my answer is usually, don't use any at all. Now, it's not because I don't like furniture polishes, but it's because there are hundreds of different types of wood. And in any given house, you can have 10, 12, 14 different types of wood. Now, all wood is not created equal. There's pre-engineered wood that has a finish already on it. There is wood, real wood, like you'll find on a kitchen cabinet, but it has a glaze over the top of it. And then there are old antique pieces of furniture that are very porous, and they're dried out wood, and you need some kind of a waxy paste in there instead of just a spray. So all wood is not created equal. There are all different types of wood, and there are all different types of furniture polishes. So for the general house cleaner that's going in, unless you are very wood familiar and you are very polish familiar, my suggestion to you is use a damp microfiber cloth and your Swiffer duster. Now, there are lots of house cleaners that say, I only use microfiber cloths. Now, back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, there were lots of TV commercials that had lots of cleaning products. And people would go into this really dusty table and they would spray the furniture polish. Then they would take their microfiber cloth and they would wipe it off. And then they would show you that there's all this dust that it collected. Okay, that's great. But the reality is if you did an entire house that way, you would have 30 or 40 microfiber cloths with all this dust. And then you have to clean all those cloths. So it is a little expensive, but I bill into the cost of the cleaning ahead of a disposable 360 Swiffer duster. Okay, this is great for an entire house. And so what happens is when I'm cleaning and I'm dusting, the 360 Swiffer duster has filaments in it that trap the dust inside. So you can dust an entire house with one of these. When you're done, you pull the head off and it goes in the customer's trash. So you can do all of your dusting before you polish. So if you get to a customer's house and the customer decides for some reason that they do want you to polish their furniture, they should probably tell you what type of furniture polish they want used and on what pieces of furniture. Because not all pieces of furniture are going to require furniture polish, okay? There are still pieces of wood that already have a glaze, they already have a shine, they've got a gel coat over the top of them. All you need is a damp microfiber cloth. So I don't want to go overkill and start putting all kinds of waxy pastes on there and stuff that's going to take up time, money, resources, and it's going to leave the product sticky or with some kind of a shine on it that's going to leave fingerprints and smudges. So you've got to know your wood if you're going to use furniture polish. All right, so the first step is dusting. You're going to always dust first. That is always the first step. All right, then the second step, if you are going to clean, what kind of wood do you have? Now, there's a test you can do. And the test is if you drop a bead of water on the wood, if it beads up on top of the wood and it just sits there, then it is in fact a sealed finish. And so you can use something that is kind to sealed finishes instead of a wax. All right, if it soaks into the wood and it just kind of changes the color of the wood because it has absorbed into the wood, that's a more porous kind of wood. And for that, you're going to use something like Daddy Van's, which is a beeswax paste, and it goes on a little bit gooey. You're going to put it on your cloth and you're going to rub it into the wood. And as you rub it into the wood, it is going to fill in those gaps and it's going to smooth everything out. And it's going to revitalize the look and feel of the wood. So this is a recommended paste for example, antique furniture that is really old and it's lost its nourishment and its color and all that stuff. There are a couple different products on the market, but the Daddy Van's is fantastic for antique furniture. All right, there are other products that I want to go over real quick, but before I do, I want to share with you, there are a couple different types of microfiber cloths that we use. This microfiber cloth has an edge to it. And for dusting is fine if you're just going to dust. But if you're going to polish and you're going to be using chemicals, I recommend the kind that does not have an edge. And the reason being is once you're putting the edge back on and you're buffing it, you don't want the edge that has the seams on it, you don't want that to catch and then leave an extra streak or a mark. Because the whole purpose of polishing the furniture is to leave no marks and no streaks, right? Okay. So edgeless microfiber cloths. Now, a note about microfiber cloths. At the end of a day, if you do several houses in the course of a day, you're probably going to have some microfiber cloths that have chemicals on them. And this could be furniture polish, it could be stainless steel polish. I wash all of the microfiber cloths with chemicals on them in the same load of laundry. And so I keep them separate from ones we just use for regular water, for the very reason that I don't want the chemicals transferring or I don't want them laundered together. I just want them separate. All right, so that's just a note. Now, other work smart, not hard tools. If we're going to be using chemicals, we want to use our gloves. And just for the sheer fact that we don't want to absorb anything that we're putting into the wood. It is designed for the wood, not for our bodies. So if we're going to live for 30 years, 40 years in the business, we want to take extra care of our hands and we want to make sure that we protect our hands from any of the chemicals that we're touching. All right, let's take a look at some of the products that I recommend today. I already mentioned Daddy Vans, which is an excellent product for antiques. All right, the next product is an aerosol spray. It's Endust by Dwersey, and it is a silicone-free product, and it's designed to reduce allergens. So as you dust and clean, it has a no wax, no paste buildup that you can use on the top of painted surfaces. And so let's say that you have pre-engineered wood, or you have tables or something that's made of cheap wood, but it also has other things on it, like it has glass or it has iron legs or something like that. The Endust is a fantastic product that you can use on all of those types of furniture. Another product that is great for painted wood that has no wax on it is the Thomasville wood cleaner. And so these are in no particular order, just kind of based on what we're talking about at the moment. This is a product that's created by Parker & Bailey, and they produce their own wood furniture, but they also produce the aerosol spray for all of the Thomasville line of furniture. And so if you have something, think of IKEA furniture, where they're pre-made furniture and you just piece them together, or they may be end tables or entertainment centers, or it's not really expensive wood. Okay, this is an excellent product for that, as well as the Endust, because both of these products will clean and they don't leave a waxy buildup and they just leave a shine, and it's just nice and clean and you're done. Howard Feed and Wax is a wax that is made of beeswax and carnauba paste. And combined, it helps restore the luster of old furniture. And so we already talked about the Daddy Vans, but the Howard Feed and Wax also does an amazing job that is great for antique furniture and also porous furniture that has lost its luster. And so when you apply it, instead of applying it directly on the furniture itself, I recommend that you take your fingers and you wrap them around your microfiber cloth and you dip it inside the paste so you have a little bit on your hands, and then you rub it on the surface of the wood itself. And as you rub it on, this is made of carnauba paste and beeswax. And as you rub it in there, it will absorb into the furniture and it will push it into all the nooks and crannies and crevices, and it will help restore the luster and nourish the wood. And so instead of having old dilapidated wood that looks like it's falling apart or is distressed, you can restore that so it has a bright, brilliant shine. So clean it first. You want to dust it first, and then as you apply the wax, it will then revitalize your wood. Method Wood for Good Daily Clean is another product that I highly recommend. This is a plant-based product that is non-toxic, it's completely biodegradable, and it's great for everyday cleaning. So if you have like painted shelves that might be made of wood, or if you have bookcases, or you have end tables, this is something without a high gloss to it. And it's not an antique piece of furniture. This is going to be like some pre-made furniture. Again, something from IKEA, or maybe something that you bought in a box and you assembled together. The Method is excellent for that. Now, if you have a really high-end shine and you use the Method, you're going to be sadly disappointed because it's not a high-gloss product. It's a cleaning product. So it's kind of like a multi-purpose cleaner for wood. So what is the Method? The Method is Method. Now, there are a couple of ways you can apply this. The recommended way is that you apply it on your microfiber cloth. So I would spray it on your microfiber cloth and then wipe down after your cloth is damp. Wipe down the end tables or the end chairs or the arms of the furniture. That is what I would recommend instead of spraying it directly. Anytime you spray something directly on a piece of furniture, there's a risk of overspray. And the overspray could get on the floor below. And if it's a hardwood floor, even though you're spraying wood and it's wood cleaner on wood, it could be sticky or slippery on the hardwood floor. And so we never want to use furniture polishes on hardwood floors. They're different and they're engineered different and the finishes are different. And the next product on our list is Murphy Oil Soap. This is a soap that you can use on the front of your icky, sticky, greasy cabinets in your kitchen. Now, I don't want us to use any of the other furniture polishes on the kitchen cabinets because the kitchen cabinets already have a glaze on the front of them. And I say for most homes. If the cabinets have been home built and they don't have the glaze on the front of them, you may need a different product. But for most of the kitchen cabinets where they were store-bought and the builder brought them in and whatever, the Murphy Oil Soap is the product that you want to use. Now, I made a video on it the other day and I will leave links in the show notes so that you can see exactly how the process is. We did a regular process and then a speed cleaning process. And I will leave links in the show notes to all these other products as well so that you can purchase them or become more familiar with them or what have you. With the Murphy Oil Soap, there are a couple of things that I want to make note of. We want to be very careful whenever we add water or soap to wood because wood is porous and it will absorb that. And we don't necessarily want to use chemicals on wood, if at all possible. And I want us to avoid, at all costs, I want us to avoid eraser sponges on wood. Even though there's gunk and it's icky and it seems like a great idea, not always a great idea because the eraser sponges are a fine sandpaper. And we don't want to sand the wood down and we certainly don't want to remove the finish. So the exception to the rule is unless you have a wood 6-panel door that's painted white, then the eraser sponges are like booyah, they're awesome for that. But let's keep them away from the kitchen cabinets. Let's keep them away from furniture and entertainment centers and all that kind of stuff, okay? There's a place for everything in our cleaning caddy and there's a place on different types of surfaces. But when it comes to wood, I want us to be super, super careful. With hundreds of different kinds of wood, we want to be very wood sensitive to what it is we're putting on the wood because at the end of the day, as a house cleaner that's being paid to come into someone's home, you're responsible for that furniture. And if you ruin the furniture, your insurance is going to have to buy them new furniture if it can't be repaired or refinished or whatever. So be very, very careful about what you do. All right, moving on. Liquid gold. This is Scott's Liquid Gold, and this is a phenomenal product. It cleans as well as gives a light shine. Now, this is great for things like stair banisters. Now, I'm guilty of this in my own home, but I will take like my shirts, for example, my work shirts, and instead of throwing them in the dryer where the heat can change the size or what have you, and they're made of microfiber, so I don't want to put the microfiber in the dryer, but I hang them up over the rail of the stairway. And so after years of doing this, of course, it kind of lightens the color or it takes off the finish or the finish is wet or damp or something. Not always good. This is a great product that I go over after I've dusted the stair railings. I go back over it with Scott's Liquid Gold. And very carefully, you just spray it on your rag and then you take your cloth and you go over in the grain of the wood. As you go over the banister in the grain of the wood, it's not back and forth and rubbing and polishing. It's going over it once just to recoat the top of it and to reseal this in the crevices, okay? So you don't ever want to go overkill on the polishes that you use, but this is a great polish for this. This is also a great polish for end tables and TV stands and the little tables that you use to put your dinner on when you're sitting in front of the TV. So this is a great product. It's an in-between product of the wood cleaner from Thomasville and let's say, for example, Pledge. Pledge is a more waxy feel to it. This is kind of an in-between product. Now let's talk about Pledge for a second. This is Pledge Lemon Enhancing Polish. And a lot of these companies produce lots of the same products. So this is S.C. Johnson, and they produce lots of the products that we're familiar with when it comes to the furniture polish. Pledge has been around for years. This is probably the #1 go-to product for house cleaners. It's probably the safest. If you're only going to take one with you, it's probably Pledge. Pledge is used for a variety of different types of woods. It's great for end tables. It's great for TV entertainment centers. It's going to polish and it's going to leave a slight wax feel, okay? Now, if you're not careful and you go over something that already has a wax coating on top of it, it's going to put an extra wax coating on top of it. So it's going to leave a film. And then when you touch it, it will leave fingerprints and smears. So you want to make sure that it's a dull wood that doesn't have already a high gloss to it. For example, in the entertainment room, there's a massage chair. On the arms of the massage chair, they're super glossy. So I would never use a product like this on that already glazed polished wood, right? But for all the other pieces of wood in the room, which is the bed, the headboard, vanity, it's the end tables, it's the great big bureaus, the dressers, all that stuff, we would use pledge for that. And with the top of it, the wide part of the top of the bureau, you can just spray this directly on there and then use your microfiber cloth and polish it up. But when it comes to all of the chest drawers, what we want to do instead of spraying this on there, because all the handles are made of copper and we don't want to get this on the copper. So what we're going to do then is spray it on the cloth itself and then go in a rhythmic motion around all the handles so we don't get it on the handles. So again, you want to be very careful that you're not destroying one thing while trying to preserve something else. Does that make sense? So the whole end game for furniture polish is you want to be as cautious as possible and then have conversations, lots of conversations with your customers to find out exactly what it is. Now, there's a piece of wood that we are going to show you today. It was very dried out, very shiny, but very dried out, and it needs a regular coat of Old English polish. This is a lemon oil, and the oil will seep into the wood, so we don't need this all the time. We're going to do this once out of every 6 or 7 cleans. So where we might use the pledge on every clean, or we might use the Murphy's wood oil every 6 months on the front of the cabinets, we may only use the Old English polish on this particular table once every 6 or 7 cleans, just to revitalize it and to give it back that nourishment of the dried out wood. Now during the winter time, when the air dries out, everything seems to dry out. And sometimes you'll notice that as you go to close a door, it sticks and it doesn't close properly. It's because wood absorbs and expands. As it absorbs and expands, sometimes it just needs a little bit of moisture in it to kind of keep the wood where it needs to be. And so with that, when you go in and the air is really dry and all the doors and stuff are sticking, that's when we actually add the furniture polish with like the Old English polish back to the tables and stuff, just to restore the shine and to keep everything where it's supposed to be with enough moisture and humidity in the air. All right, and the last product that I want to recommend is Therapy. Therapy is a wood cleaner / oil that works really well for, let's say, dining room tables. Now, my dining room table has lots of nooks and crannies in it, and let's say that you spilt some coffee or milk or something on the table. Okay, so there's a stain on the table or something has dropped. This is a great product to put on your microfiber cloth, and it's made of vegetable glycerin and coconut oil and mineral oil, and as you clean the surface, it restores the oils that you just removed. So it cleans as it shines, which is a great product for, like I said, dining room tables. Now, because of all the nooks and crannies in the legs of my table, what I like to do is I like to take a little carafe or a bullet and put just a few drops at the bottom so that I can dip my OXO Deep Clean brush in there. Then I can go over all the nooks and crannies in the table leg, cleaning with the Therapy as I go. When you're done, you can just kind of polish it off. You don't need to go back and re-rinse it or buff it off or any of those things. So it's a really great product, like I said, for dining room tables or kitchen areas where you're going to have some spills. So it's a great way to restore and clean and polish your furniture without leaving the waxy, pasty buildup, and like I said, restoring the oils as you remove them as you clean. So these are a couple of things that I want you to think about when you are cleaning furniture at customers' homes. First and foremost, have a conversation with the customer. Is this something you want me to be responsible for? Do you want me to be responsible for your furniture? Or do you want to add all the extra stuff on after I've dusted and just brought them back to a clean state? Lots of people will say clean is just fine for me. And if that's the case, then save yourself the extra steps. If they say, no, I got to have my furniture polished, because some people are very addicted to the furniture polish. They got to have it. And then they usually have a preference based on smell or the waxability of it or the paste, or some people love the beeswax because it does leave a really nice shine and it fills in the grooves. There are people that don't like the shine at all and they don't like the wax and they don't want anything that's going to leave fingerprints behind. But the sooner you have that conversation with your customer, the happier your customer is going to be. So it's a conversation that is worth having with every single customer, and then find out exactly what furniture polishes they want you to use on what type of surfaces. Anyway, that's my suggestion for today. I hope it helps you a little bit. If you have questions, please leave them in the links below. And until we meet again, leave the world a cleaner place than when you found it.